Okay, this is part 3. Hope you can hear it. Just a side note, when I was about 9, I was at the Ottawa Boys and Girls Club, and I drowned. And the pool was full. I was in the deep end, and I didn't know how to swim. And I sank, and when I couldn't hold my breath no more and breathe, I drank swallowed water, you know. And when that happened, you guys heard about people having their lives flash before their eyes? That happened. That happened. It seemed like it took a second, but I must have seen like 20,000 still photos, like just like, you know, so like, you know what I mean, like so fast. And I understood them when I was in the water dying. I understood the, you know, the life or whatever. But when the lifeguards got me out, and you know, water and all that came out of my mouth, and I came back, I knew that it happened, and I knew that I saw all those pictures, but I could not remember a single one. I couldn't remember a single one. I just wanted to throw that in there, because that also is important for later on. This is crazy stuff, man. Now the shop, you know, we had a good life, you know. I told you my son that I would give my son everything I never had in my life, and I did. We sent him to we sent him to Sunday school, you know, when we went to church. I never celebrated Christmas or holidays, but my wife did, and I gave her all the money she needed to get him whatever he wanted. He never wanted anything. We would get it, or God would get it for him. You know, he always had love, care, attention, everything I never had. And I try to teach him, you know, about bikes and stuff. So that's that, you know. Now, I don't know how much you all know about Satanism, pedophiles, and the Masons, but they came after me hard, you know. I felt I was justified in doing what I did, even though it only lasted 5 minutes. I'm not going to put my wife's testimony or inventory on here. It's up to her to follow her own journey. But I went to a prostitute, and I got head. It took less than 5 minutes, but I had to fight my spirit. Like, I had to fight it to do it. It was almost impossible to do it. Like, it was almost impossible to do it. But I did it, and the second it was done, I regretted it almost more than anything in my life, you know. But here's what happened after that. First, a cop came into the shop and attempted to befriend me, you know what I mean, and talking trash about Harley shop and stuff, and asking me if I could take care of him. Well, I could take care of anybody. I fixed any bike. I didn't give a crap. All 4 Japs, Harley, it didn't matter. I fixed it. Quads, you name it. Snowmobiles. I was a mechanic. I fixed engines, you know. So I said, yeah, no problem. And then he pulled I sold him some stuff. He pulled his sergeant card or whatever out and said, "You ever got any problems, call me," you know. I didn't think anything of it. I mean, I've never called a cop in my life. Never. You don't do that. That's not part of the lifestyle, you know. But he was a customer, and following him, a 7-foot, 4 to 450 pound giant, old man, like maybe 55, came in, and as a customer with a little moped or whatever, and he was a pedophile, but I didn't know. He was also a Mason, and I condensed it a bit after a few weeks of service, like fixing his stuff and stuff. Computers had just come out, you know what I mean, and people was playing games and stuff, and my son, he was very young, but he wanted to play some games or whatever. Well, this guy claimed he had a fancy computer and some kind of space chair or something, and he said it was extra and no problem, he'd be happy to let me have it, just you know, so my kid could enjoy something that I couldn't afford to get him. All my money, every dime I made, went back into the shop. Well, it went to feed my family and rent, but every other dime had to go right back into the shop. I was the best equipped shop anywhere. Do you know what Snap-on hydraulic lifts are? I had 4 of them. You know what I mean? 4 Snap-on hydraulic lifts. They were $2,000 each, and $1,000 extra for the quad extensions. So $3,000. And all my money went back to the shop. And so anyways, he comes by one day with this chair and the computer, you know. And so I thought, why not? I mean, you know, it was free, right? Like, yeah, I wasn't going to keep it. He said I could use it, or, you know, for a while. So I took it. And when he left, he tapped me on the shoulder and goes, I put a special file in there for you, he said. You know, again, I hate using this word, but I was perplexed. You know what I mean? I didn't peg him as a you know, a pedophile, just a weirdo. You know what I mean? Like millions of others done that, you know. But and when I got home that night, I clicked, you know, when you click on the yellow file folder, and it was full, like there was tons of pages in it with photographs, okay? I didn't look at them, I just was able to visually see the first set of pictures, you know. I can't talk about this. Let's just say, I see a lot in my life, you know, but this 4-year-old girl, 6-month-old babies. Oh, I lost it, you know. I wanted to kill him, but I had such a small child, and if I went to prison, it'd be open season on my kid, you know. So, this was a long time ago, and it feels like it happened a minute ago. Everybody was freaked out. Everybody was afraid of this guy, you know. Not me. So I went to the shop the next day. I brought that stupid fucking chair and the computer, and I threw it in the parking lot. And I was at my buddy at a Harley shop next door, and we were buds. And at the time, we were buds. And one of my employees came running over to tell me that the guy was there, like at my shop. And everybody else, like there was 4 or 5 people working there, they were all inside. They wouldn't come out, you know, because they all knew. Well, my wife knew, and I assume she told them. I didn't. Just that he was a fucking prick, you know. And so I went back to the shop. He was out in the parking lot where the computer and a chair were, and I just laid into him. Like I told him what I thought of him, etc., etc. You know, I'm yelling at this guy and making a lot of hand gestures, and I had a shotgun, 2 shotguns in the shop, and I really wanted to shoot him. I really wanted to shoot him. Anyways, he was gone, you know, after that. But I had a nervous breakdown a couple days later. I never had one in my life. You don't ever want it. You don't ever want it. I stood in my room and I shed buckets of tears, like not normal crying, man. I mean, I couldn't stop it. It wouldn't stop. Everybody was afraid of me, you know. They thought I went insane or something. Anyways, when he was out in the parking lot and I was yelling at him, he said, "Wait, wait," and he held his hand out and he said, "I have the ring." And he had a Mason ring, but I didn't know what the fuck Masons were, you know. I didn't know, I didn't care, you know. And after that, that was the first time in my life I ever called the police. And I called the guy that was the customer, you know, that gave me his card. And he said, like I did, this was before I gave the guy his computer back, because I wanted this guy in prison, you know. And he said that they couldn't even look at the evidence which I had in my possession, because it wasn't mine, it was his. This is what they said to me, you know. Or he said to me, and I thought, that ain't right. Like, something's not right there, you know what I mean? So I went down to the actual, where the cops lived, you know, and asked for the boss down there. And I'm pretty upset. I'm yelling at the cops because I'm not understanding what's going on here. I knew they were crooks. I've known since I was a kid, but to protect pedophiles? Really? Huh? Really? They said that they knew who he was and that he was under heavy investigation from 7 agencies in the U.S. and that he was untouchable, so they couldn't do anything about it. Thank you, government. Huh? They came after me after that. Some crazy street chick possessed by demons tried to push me in front of a bus. Well, she did push me in front of a bus and a car. My son was with me. I threw her to the ground and put my knees on her arms and my hands on her throat. Told my son to run back to the apartment. And I never seen her again. But that was one time. And I still have my business, you know. And the second time was pretty bad. I was just outside my apartment complex, waiting to turn into the parking lot, but it was wall-to-wall cars. I couldn't make my turn. I had to advance another 10 feet to be able to turn into my thing, and there was cars everywhere. You couldn't change a lane or anything. You couldn't go forwards. But behind me was absolutely clear. There was no vehicles. And about a block away, I seen this truck. And this truck was doing 80, 90 clicks easy in a 50. You know what I mean? 80, 90 clicks this guy was doing. I had literally a second or two to decide what to do. You know what I mean? If I got out of my truck, then, because my emergency brake did not work, so if I got out of my truck, the guy in front of me would get plowed with my vehicle, and Lord knows what could happen, you know. So I opted to stay in the truck and depress the brake as hard as I could. And he hit. My head went through the back window. I suffered a concussion, some brain damage, just a little, and 3 fractured vertebrae. It wasn't good, you know. And but if you're a man, like, it's stupid. I know it's stupid, but you ever heard the term "a man's man"? Well, that's how I was. You know what I mean? I rolled out of the truck as soon as I could, you know, after the accident, and people are going, "You all right? You all right?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm fine." You know what I mean? I was in shock. I didn't know what the hell was going on. And no police came. No police came. It was rush hour. No police came. No police came. Nobody called the police, and no police came to the accident. That was the beginning and the end for me. I'll tell you why. Hospitals are no different than the cops. I had to make my way unwillingly down to the hospital because that night, like a few hours after the accident, the pain was so intense. Like I'm talking very, very severe pain in my neck and the 3 broken things in my spine things, you know, and went to the hospital, and they did nothing about my head. Like, you know, they didn't x-ray my head. Had the police come to the accident scene, I would have been on a stretcher to the hospital and then properly looked at as an accident victim. But all they saw was a guy walking in saying he was in an accident, and they never checked my head or anything. They took an x-ray of my back and put it up there and said that it was fine. This is our great doctor, you know, everything's fine. There's nothing wrong with you. Well, there was a lot wrong with me. They found out later, you know, when weapons came out and stuff, they found out later that I did have all this stuff from the accident when they re-examined the, you know, the x-ray. But the pain was so intense that I had to self-medicate. Now, I'd been sober 18 years by that point. 18 years, you know? And, but my mind wasn't there after the accident. Like, it just wasn't there. And, it took me 2 days to close down my business and sell everything. Like, I mean, everything. Before vultures moved in, you know. And then I started treating myself with cocaine. Well, what that did was led to 2 years of the worst hell I ever lived in. Like, it made the streets look like a freaking picnic, okay? I did, you know, booze, acid, hash, and pot when I was on the street. I used a needle a few times, but it wasn't a big deal, and I didn't even like it, you know. But the pain was so bad, that was the only thing that would take it away, was a good slam, you know. And because I am a drug addict, I instantly got addicted again. And it was real bad. Like, I mean, it was real bad. I gotta take a break. Understand if I seem emotional sometimes about things or swear or whatever. That's not really me today. But when I tell you things from my past, I'm not just telling you a story. I have to live it when I tell it to you. And it's horrible, you know. But the only people that can earn serious coin in this world are people allied with Satan. And if you're not allied with Satan, you're not allowed to earn. And that's that simple. And if you don't believe that, look around you. Okay, I lived it, I know it. I've been on all sides of the fence. Poor, street rat, business owner, Christian, like you name it, I've been on all ends. And it is what it is, you know. It is what it is. And now, during that 2-year period that I was heavily strung out on heroin, cocaine, and crack, I suffered over a dozen heart attacks and strokes. I only knew about one of them at the time. I didn't know about the others. Near the end of that period, the drugs wouldn't take away the pain anymore. You know, like not the internal spiritual pain, but the physical pain, those spinal injuries and stuff. So the doctor had told me to go to the hospital, that everything was set up to look at me real good and see what they missed, you know, which was everything. But when I got there, I don't know if you know what hospital emergency rooms are like, but you know, they got to sit there and wait 5 hours or whatever to get in, and I'm still using it at that time, okay? And believe me, I wasn't as nice as I am now, you know. But it was supposed to be all set up. I just had to walk in and they would take me straight to my own room and stuff. Well, it wasn't like that. You know what I mean? The nurse wanted me to sit in the room and wait my turn to be seen, and said it would be a couple hours. Well, I lost it. Like, I really lost it. I threatened the nurses. I told them I'd be back in a short period of time to blow them away with my shotgun. And that wasn't an idle threat. I left and went back home, got my shotgun, did another hit, and by the time I was ready to go out again, 1, 2, 3, there was 5 police outside my apartment door, and also 5 or 6 in the parking lot searching my van. I had a van, you know, and well, you're not going to do much with a single shot 12 gauge, you know what I mean, against 10 or 12 cops. And I didn't want my family to be subjected. I didn't let them in the apartment. I opened the door and I just yelled at them, and I said, "You got a warrant, Ponce?" You know, and they took me and cuffed me up, and they completely searched my apartment 3 or 4 times, top to bottom. They took all my guns. They left all drug stuff there. That, like, they didn't touch that. They seen it. They went through it all, but they just took the guns and the ammunitions. And apparently my van was searched 7 times. Now, when they brought me back to the hospital, it was the same way I usually arrived there, completely chained up, hands, feet, strapped with the. They have a chain strap for your to hold me permanently to the gurney. They don't take no chances, you know what I mean? And they give me a shot to make me not be violent and angry, like whatever kind of bull they put in you, that was where, for the first time in my life, I got, well, when I was, remember when the demons came into me and I had to go to the shrink, they put me on Ritalin. I was on Ritalin for about 2 or 3 years as a child. But that was it. That's the only pharmaceutical I ever had in my life. And it's horrible stuff, but that was it, and it was forced on me. And this time, like, I was out of it, so you can't, like, they didn't ask me if I wanted anything. They gave me all these drugs. They gave me, I had 12 antipsychotic and sleeping, like the most powerful sleeping pill you can get from the pharmaceuticals, and the rest was Ativan, and the other 10 was antipsychotics. You know, the stuff they give to everybody in the States, and they go around kill their family members and all that stuff. Well, that's all true. Okay, that's absolutely 100% true. I was like a drooling, walking zombie when they gave me those pills, but the thoughts in my head were all about extreme violence with knives and guns and stuff. Like, I wanted to hurt everybody, you know. Well, I got off of oh yeah, this was all too much for me. You know, it was just all too much for me. So one day I walked out of my bedroom and I screamed for the first time in my life at the top of my lungs, "There is no God!" And then I went online and researched the sleeping pills that I had. I had 2 bottles with over 100 of these sleeping pills. And I looked at hundreds of morgue pictures of people that committed suicide with those pills. Most of them taking 20 or less of those pills. So that night, I asked my wife and my son if they both remembered everything I'd ever told them, because I never lied to them, and I only told them truth, you know. And when they said yes, I went into the bathroom. I took 100 of those pills, and I went to sleep, you know. And I knew I was in trouble, but I also knew, even though I was in trouble, to be absent from the body is to be with the Lord. And that's all I wanted, you know. But I woke up in the morning surrounded by police, and I was a mess. I couldn't walk. My legs were rubber. I couldn't talk. When I tried to talk, just weird things came out of my mouth, like not even words, just, you know. And there I go, right? Crazy guy, back to the insane asylum. Well, not the insane asylum, but the crazy wing of the hospital, you know. It was horrible, man. It was horrible. Now, I'm leaving a lot of stuff out. Some a lot on purpose, and other stuff I did want to put in here, but I don't know. I just forget things, you know. I forget stuff once in a while. And, okay, this is too long. I gotta make part 4. I'm sorry.